Tego, we had a question this week.
Yeah.
How much should we spend on our house? And there's lots of theories and lots of people who will weigh in on how much should we spend on our house. And there's ways to look at it, right? As a percentage of income, or a multiple of net worth, or household income, comfort level of what you're comfortable in spending. So the whole thing. Let's answer that question.
Yeah, so there's an old rule of thumb about, your family budget. It's a 50-30-20 rule. And what it says is that 50% of your income should be on your necessities, your housing, transportation, healthcare, food, basically your basic necessities, right?
What's the 30%?
30% are your wants, your extras, dining out. Now, I know a lot of people put dining out and food and they lump them together, but
that's not really in that necessity 50%.
Exactly. Yeah, I guess I don't want to go down that road. But anyway, so dining out, travel, entertainment, special clothes, stuff like that, right?
So then the extra 20% to get to 100%, what's that?
That's savings. And, putting some money aside every single paycheck. People say it should be 10. In this case, it's saying 20% should be set aside for retirement, emergencies. If you do the Dave Ramsey rule, you need that emergency fund.
Six months of expenses.
Yeah, emergency fund. So and that could be debt repayment. So what they're saying is 50% is your necessities, and part of that is your housing cost, either rent or a mortgage payment if you have a mortgage on a house. Historically, Tracy, housing costs have been somewhere in the 30% range of your income.
30% of your income. But lately, with the low interest rates and higher home prices, what has happened with that?
Well, the thing that's interesting is that home prices over the last 10 years have been historically let's say affordable when you figure the mortgage payment, because one, we had relatively low home prices until this year,
and low appreciation
and
for 10 years.
Yeah, low appreciation. I mean, we've really had very, very slow price appreciation since about 2012. It's been very muted, if you will. And we've had super low interest rates. We talk about, it's funny because we say super low interest rates at 4%. And now we've been at this kind of 3% level for the longest time. So what's happened is, even though home prices have gone up a lot recently, the actual overall cost of your housing is still lower than historic levels, just because the interest rates are so low and your payments are lower.
I know we've talked about this for years on this radio station, that the cost of home ownership as a portion of your income is actually more affordable now than it was 20 years ago.
Oh yeah, no doubt about that, Tracy, and that's for sure. So I just want to make one point here. So we talked about these rules of thumb, right? In what it costs or how much you should spend. The problem with rules of thumb is they don't take into account your personal circumstances, right? Because when you're thinking about buying a home versus maybe renting, you got to look at the math, right? That's kind of what we're talking about. In people with brains like mine, we're all about the math, but it's also emotion, it's your circumstances. What are the trade-offs that you're willing to do and take?
So the bottom line here is, we're not going to give you a number, right? We need to just talk about it.
Right.
Go, okay, let's look at your total picture, talk about what your comfort level is in a house payment, and come to something that makes sense based on interest rates. We talk with the lender. We think of us, you, and a lender as kind of like a trifecta, a triangle,
yes.
right?
Yep.
The three of us work together, unless you're paying cash, and then you don't really have a house payment. You have some taxes and insurance every year. But let's talk about it, put together a plan of what makes you comfortable, and then back into your home price.
And so, Tracy, I'm going to just pull out some of these questions here. So this was Ben Carlson. He's a financial advisor, and he had written a piece on this. I do want to give him credit. And he said, these are some of the questions that you should be thinking about when you're saying, okay, how much should I spend on a home, especially if you're a first-time buyer? Should you stretch a little bit further? Maybe you're going to stretch a little bit further if you're a first-time home buyer, right?
Well, and if you're in just starting a career where your income is going to go up quite a bit over the next couple of years. You might want to stretch and take advantage of that low
Don't
interest rate.
do an adjustable rate mortgage, whatever you do. I don't even think they really even exist anymore.
Well, they're not a better deal right now than a 30-year lock.
Right. So these are some, I thought these were some 3 really good questions. Was how long do I plan to live in this home? Could I see this being my forever home? Or am I going to just be here for a little bit and move on? And then, how much am I comfortably spending on my housing? And then how do I compare that cost to, whatever else I'm going to do to put a roof over my head versus rent versus buying? So I think they're great questions. It's a very personal question, and there's no simple answer to it.
Yep. There you go.